Constitution amendments. How do we amend our Constitution? What I really like about this document is that it can be amended, it can be changed anytime the people want it changed. If there's something not working, we can change it, we can fix it. If something needs to be added, we can change it, we can fix it. Without working underneath the Constitution, we can't do anything without state approval. We have two ways to amend the Constitution. One way is by ordinance adopted by the county council and submitted to the voters with approval, majority approval. So if the county council sees that there's a need for Franklin County, they can't change the Constitution just to give themselves power. They have to go to the people and say, this is what we would like to do and here's why we would like to do it. They can place an issue on the ballot, and then the voters get to decide if that becomes part of our Constitution, amendment to the Constitution, if it's not defined in the Constitution. The second way is by petition. 10% of the registered voters can amend or can provide a amendment be placed on the ballot, or provide for an amendment to be placed on the ballot to be submitted to the voters. And I'll note that that's 10% of the registered voters of each council district. So if there's 60,000 registered voters in the county, we need 6,000 signatures to get an issue placed on the ballot. It can't be 6,000 signatures from Washington. It has to be 10% of each district. So it might be 500 from Labadie, 500 from St. Clair, because this document is designed to take care of all of Franklin County, not just parts of it. And it's 10% of those who voted in the last gubernatorial election. That's where the 10% comes from, and that's established in the Constitution. And then once that amendment's placed on the ballot, it's subject to a majority approval by the voters before it becomes law in Franklin County. Also, there's a provision to establish a Constitutional Amendment Commission every 10 years. As I stated at the beginning of the presentation, we were formed as a Constitution Commission to draft a Constitution. This provision allows, every 10 years, either the voters or the county council can put it to the vote of the people should we form a Constitutional Amendment Commission. So this new commission, if approved by the voters, would come in and look at our current Constitution to decide if it needs to be amended or changed, or if we need to scrap it and write an entire new Constitution, and then they will present that to the voters just as we have done with this Constitution. So we allow for that to happen every 10 years. Also, an entire repeal of the Constitution is possible. If you want to repeal the entire Constitution, it requires 20% of the voters of the different districts, as I described, to get that issue on the ballot, and then you can repeal the entire Constitution if for some reason it's not working down the road or it needs to be redone. Article 9 talks about initiative, recall, and referendum. The public have a right to propose their own initiative and enact ordinances. If you want to propose an ordinance and you can't get your council members to propose the ordinance, or you're not having any success getting it passed, the county council for whatever reason is not in favor of this ordinance, but you still feel passionate about it, you can get 5% signatures on a petition of 2/3 of the council districts, and that will put the ordinance on the ballot so the citizens can bring an ordinance into play without the council's approval if they choose to do so. They can also reject or approve the ordinances by recall with similar provisions. They can recall, the citizens can recall any county official by 20% of the votes on petition, and then a majority of the vote to actually recall the county official. Article 10 talks about prohibitions, basically the discrimination clause. Also, we have a severability clause. In the severability clause, it states that if any part of the Constitution, a sentence, a line, a word, a clause, an article, is deemed to be unconstitutional, it doesn't null and void the entire Constitution, it just null and voids that particular issue so that we are still working within a Constitution. Article 10 has a conflict of interest clause, which is consistent with state statute. It basically prevents preferred treatment to vested interest of elected officials. So if I'm the director of public works, I can't just automatically award the asphalt contract to a company that I own 10% of. It's consistent with state statute, and that's what it's for, is to prevent that type of abuse. Intergovernmental relations, corporation coordination with cities, towns, villages, the ability for cities to contract with the county, No new villages, towns, or cities without county approval. It's all covered in Article 10. The general provisions state that the tax rebatement shall continue to the cities, towns, and villages at no less than the 2008 percentage level. County shall not intervene in annexations by the cities, towns, or villages. States that the county clerk is going to maintain the records, books, and codes, and also the county clerk is to be the sole election authority for the county. Also, the county council positions are nonpartisan. The 7 districts that we discussed earlier, those 7 people are elected in nonpartisan elections, and also the county executive is elected in a county-wide nonpartisan election.